This video continues our look at select commands in SQL. We're going to be looking at how to remove duplicates from the results of a query, and we're also going to examine aggregate functions. So first, when we're doing a select command, the result may end up including duplicate tuples. For example, let's say we're trying to find the ID numbers of all students who are enrolled in a course. Well, using the enrolled table of our university database, we start with this entire table because we've listed it in the from clause. We don't use a where clause because we want all of the rows in the enrolled table. Applying the select clause gives us just the student ID column. And so that is what we would get if we just ran this query, the original version. And as you can see, students who are enrolled in multiple courses are going to show up multiple times. And if we just want a given student to appear at most once, we're going to need to add the keyword distinct. And we do it in the select clause, right after the word select, and then we follow it with the column or columns that we want. And what that's going to do is take the original result and remove any duplicates. And so now we will have one ID number for each student who is enrolled in a course. More generally, you can have as many columns as you want separated by commas after the word distinct, and then what it's going to give you is distinct combinations of values from those columns. Now, aggregate functions are special functions that perform computations on a set of values from one of the columns in the select clause. So for example, if I want the average capacity of rooms in the CAS building, here's the query that will do it for me. I start with the entire room table, because that's what's in my from clause. I then use pattern matching, which we discussed in the previous video, to narrow things down to just rooms whose names begin with this pattern. And so I'm going to get these 5 rooms. Now, ordinarily, we've been putting just a column name, or maybe multiple column names, in the select clause. But in this case, because I have AVG and then parentheses and then a column, what's going to happen is I'm going to look at all of the capacity values that are still here after the where clause. And rather than getting that entire column, I'm instead going to get the average of those 5 capacities. And so the final result would be this single number, and because it's an average, I'm actually getting it as a number that has a decimal in it. Other aggregate functions can also be used. So if instead of AVG I put sum, and I leave the rest of the query alone, I'm going to get the same rows as before, the rooms in CAS, but now I'm going to take the capacities of those rooms and add them up, and the result will be the sum of those 5 values. If I use max, same rows as before, but now the final value will be the largest capacity of the rooms in CAS. Min will give me the smallest capacity of rooms in CAS. And count will tell me how many capacities there are. We at times need to use the keyword distinct in conjunction with an aggregate. For example, if I want to know how many students are enrolled for courses, I would start with this query where I'm counting the number of student IDs in the enrolled table. But that's going to give me 5, and I end up double counting this student who is enrolled in 2 courses. If I just want to know how many students are enrolled, how many unique students, distinct students, I'm going to have to come up here and add the keyword distinct inside the parentheses. And now, instead of getting a count of 5, I'm only going to get a count of 4 because there are 4 distinct values. Now when it comes to counting, there's a distinction to be made between count star, which is a special thing we can do if all we care about is the number of tuples in the result of a particular query. So for example, if I want to know the total number of courses in the course table, this will do it. I have my from clause, I don't even need a where clause, and I say count star, and for this particular course table where there are 5 rows, I end up getting a result of 5. If, however, I specify a particular attribute inside the parentheses of the count, instead of saying count star, Then I'm going to focus on that attribute, and I'm going to count how many values that are not null in that column. And so, for example, if I say select count room ID, then I'm going to take this room ID column. I'm not going to count the null, and so my count will no longer be 5, it will only be 4, because there are 4 non-null values. And so this would allow me to count the number of courses that meet in a room.